Yes, good morning, students. Look at page 35 and let's continue with the chapter. Yes, students, he was very careful while doing the operation because the bullet was near the kidney and he left all thoughts. He was not caring about the complaints of Hannah, what she was telling about the servants. He felt only the purest player. Being a doctor, he was very happy that he was doing it very well. He probed with his fingers delicately, familiar with every atom of this human body. His old American professor of anatomy had seen to that knowledge. Ignorance of the human body is the surgeon's cardinal sin, sirs. He had thundered at his classes year after year. We have read all this that his professor of anatomy had just made them realize when they were in America getting this education of becoming a surgeon. He was telling them again and again, thundered means shouted like anything, just like a thunder, every year in their classes, that if they want to become a surgeon, to operate without as complete knowledge of the body as if you had made it, anything else than that is murder. That one must have the complete knowledge of the human body as if that person has made all the parts of the body. Otherwise it would be just like a murder, not less than a murder. Means it would be just like a murder if you don't have the complete knowledge of the parts of the body and you are going to operate on someone. It will be a sin for the surgeon. It's not quite at the kidney, my friend, Shadow murmured. See his way of conversation. He is calling that person whom he considers from his inner heart as his enemy, but now he is operating upon him as considering him as a patient, as a human being first, and it was in his nature to call his patient as friend. So see his about his nature, we come to know that he was of very kind and good nature, very friendly with everyone. It is not quite at the kidney, my friend, Sedo murmured. Here he addresses my friend to the person who is lying on the bed, whose operation is being done, the prisoner of war, American prisoner of war. उससे जैसे कि वो बातचीत कर रहा हो, इस वे में उसने कन्वर्सेशन शुरू की है. It's not quite at the kidney. Says it is not quite near at the kidney only. It was his habit to murmur to patient when he forgot himself in an operation. My friend, he always called his patients, and so now he did, forgetting that this was his enemy. It was his habit to call his patient as friend, and whenever he is lost in his work in the operation or whatever the work he is doing for the treatment of the patient, he forgets about everything. And the same is now, he is addressing that man as my friend, and he forgets this thing also, that the man was his enemy. Then quickly, with the cleanest and the most precise of incisions, the bullet was out. Then, in a very quick manner and very clean and most precise of incision, incision होता है sharp cut, कि जो body के ऊपर उसने precise means exact उसी जगह पर cut लगाया जहां पर के उसके body में bullet थी, sharp cut किया, और in a very clean way he brought the bullet out. उसने body में से वो bullet निकाली. The man quivered, just shook, कांप रहा था वो आदमी. But he was still unconscious, but was still not unconscious. अभी भी बेहोशी की हालत में था. Nevertheless, he muttered a few English words. Whatever the condition was, he was muttering some words in English. He was just speaking some words in unconsciousness. बेहोशी की हालत में वो कुछ बोल रहा था. Guts, he muttered, choking. They got my guts. So see here, uh, again what he is saying, guts मतलब उसके जो इंटेस्टाइन्स थी, अंदर के जो हमारी पार्ट्स होते हैं उसमें इंटेस्टाइन्स हमें जो हमारी जैसे फूड पाइप होती है ऐसे ही पार्ट्स हैं जो यू माइट हैव रेड द मेडिकल स्टूडेंट्स इन द बायो। एंड ही मटर्ड चोकिंग कि उसके गट्स के अंदर कुछ चोकिंग हो रही है, उसको अंदर लग रहा है कुछ ब्लॉकेज आ रही है उसके, उसको अपने आप में फीलिंग हो रही है ऐसी। सेडो है ना क्राइड शार्पली, और सेडो ने as he spoke like this, that he was muttering, Henna cried sharply and he called Sado. Hush, Sado said, and he told her to be quiet. The man sank again into silence, so profound that Sado took up his wrist, hating the touch of it. See the feelings, inner feelings again aroused in his mind. He was doing the operation, considering him as a patient and taking him as his friend. But somehow, in his mind, he was having the idea that the man was his enemy. So the man sank again into silence. Once again, he became silent, so profound. He was so deep and growing weak in his strength that Sado took up his wrist and hating the touch of it. Uske wrist ko pakadta hai and he felt as if he had hatred for that man. Yes, there was still a pulse. He tried to check the pulse, taking his wrist in his hand. सो फेंट, सो फीबल, वो इतनी फेंट मीन्स डिम मध्यम चल रही थी, बहुत अच्छी नहीं थी उसकी पल्स इस टाइम। सो फीबल मीन्स वेरी वीक बट एनफ, बट इट was still there and he was satisfied with that. If he wanted the man to live, to give hope, that means the pulse was sufficient enough to give hope to the doctor and the life to the man. But certainly, I do not want this man to live, he thought. लेकिन एक्चुअल में वो क्या सोच रहा है, दैट ही डज नॉट वांट दैट दिस मैन शुड लिव नाउ, कि वो जिंदा रहे, बट एज ए डॉक्टर ही wanted to save his life at any cost. No more anesthetic, he told Hannah. And he told Hannah there is no need of giving this medicine of anesthetic anesthesia just to make him unconscious. He turned as swiftly as though he had never paused, and from his medicines he chose a small vial and from it filled a hypodermic and thrust it into the patient's left arm. He turned towards the other side swiftly, and it showed as if that he was not looking after the patient, he was not pausing there. He took medicine from a vial. Vial means just a bottle, small bottle from which he took the medicine, and he put that medicine in that syringe, hypodermic syringe for the injection. He filled that syringe and thrust it into the patient's left arm and gave the injection in his left arm. Then, putting down the needle, he took the man's wrist again. Keeping the needle down, he again checked his wrist. The pulse under his fingers fluttered once or twice and then grew stronger. And what he noticed that after giving that injection, suddenly the pulse started growing strong now. Earlier it was very faint, very feeble, weak, but now after the injection, the pulse had started growing stronger. That means the man was recovering. This man will live in spite of all, he said to Hannah and sighed. See his relief, he sighed. That means he took a sigh of relief. Sukha सांस liya usne, because his operation was successful and now he thought that this man will live for a long time in spite of all, means in spite of all these unavoidable circumstances or the critical situations, he would live for a long time. He was satisfied with his operation now. The young man woke, so weak, his blue eyes so terrified when he perceived where he was. Now, suddenly, the man came into conscious, but he was very weak and terrified. That terror can be seen from his eyes. Thinking, when he perceived, when he notices this thing, realizes this thing, where he was, कि वो कहाँ पर था, ये देखकर और महसूस करके वो बहुत ज़्यादा डर जाता है. That Hannah felt compelled to apologize. That Hannah was compelled to feel apology, feeling sorry that he should not feel like this. She herself served him, for none of the servants would enter the room. See the condition, attitude of the servants. No servant was ready to help them in serving or helping that patient to get well or even to serve him food. So Hannah herself served him because no servant was there and they were not ready to enter into the room. So Hannah served him herself. उसने खुद उसको खाना खिलाया and she was sorry for his condition. When she came in the first time, she saw him summon his small strength to be prepared for some fearful thing. Now look at that condition of the man. He was unconscious but was full of fear, thinking that where he had reached, he was not understanding the situation. When she came in for the first time, Hannah came inside, she saw him summon his small strength. She notices that he was trying to summon, means collect his strength to be prepared for the fearful things, for the things to happen in the future now, because he must be realizing this thing that he is somewhere outside of his country and must be taken as prisoner. But Hannah just consoled him, saying, "Don't be afraid." She begged him softly. In a very soft manner, she just consoled him, saying that he should not feel afraid. "How come? You speak English?" He gasped. And when he listened, Hannah talking in English, says, "Who are you? From where you have come? You are speaking English." That means he wanted to know where he was. "I was a long time in America," she replied, and she answered that she was in America for a long time, so she knew English also. She saw that he wanted to reply to that, but he could not, and so she knelt and fed him gently from the proclaimed spoon. He ate unwillingly, but still he ate. So what she noticed, she saw that he wanted to reply. वो उसको आंसर देना चाहता था उसका, when she told that he was in America for some time, but he could not because he was very weak. So she knelt and fed him gently from the proclaimed spoon. अपने उसका जो Chinese spoon था उसके made of China, उसके spoon के साथ अच्छे मतलब utensils use कर रही है उसको देने के लिए. She did not feel like that he was enemy, thinking on the humanitarian ground. So she saw that he wanted to reply to that, but he could not. And so she knelt and fed him gently again from the proclaimed spoon. He ate unwillingly, but still he ate. "Now you will soon be strong," she said, not liking him and yet moved to comfort him. She did not like him, but even then she consoled him, she comforted him, saying that he would be strong slowly. Did not answer. When Sedo came in the third day after the operation, he found the young man sitting up, his face bloodless with the effort. Now, it was the third day after the operation, and he noticed the man was sitting up. His face was bloodless, means white, as if he has no blood with the efforts. "Lie down," Sedo cried. "Do you want to die?" Now, he just rebuked him, scolded him that he should lie down, don't exert, he should not make efforts to stand or sit because he is very weak. And in a very taunting way, he said, "Do you want to die?" He forced the man down gently and strongly and examined the wound. "You may kill yourself if you do this sort of things," he scolded. And he scolded him and forcefully he told him to lie down in a very gentle and strong manner and examined his wounds. से जख्मों को देखता है ध्यान से, and just scolded him, saying that he might kill himself if he did this sort of things. मगर वो ट्राई करता है उठकर चलने की या उठकर बैठने की, तो उसके बॉडी में इतनी स्ट्रेंथ नहीं है, वो इतना वीक है कि he could die. "What are you doing to do with me?" the boy muttered. He looked just now barely 17. "Are you going to hand me over?" Now he was having fear in his mind that they might hand him over to the police. So he was very much under fear. And first he asked him, "What are you going to do with me? कि आप मेरे साथ क्या करोगे?" And noticed that he was just near about 17 only. For a moment, Sado did not answer. He finished his examination and then pulled the silk quilt over the man. He was taking care of him but did not answer. उसके wounds को examine करता है, ध्यान से देखता है, but he did not answer and covered his body with the quilt. "I don't know myself what I shall do with you," he said. "I ought, of course, to give you to the police. You are a prisoner of war. No, don't tell me anything." He says, "Don't make any excuse. Don't tell me anything. I am going to hand over you to the police, and myself don't know what I am going to do with you." He put up his hand as he saw the young man was about to speak. Don't even tell me your name unless I ask it. See his feeling of enmity from his mind. Being a doctor, he's treating him. But from the inner heart, he has the feeling in his mind that the man belongs to America and they are their enemies. So he did not show any feeling of sympathy towards him. So he saw the young man. He was about to speak. He wanted to say something, but Dr. Sedo stopped him, saying that he should not say anything. He should not tell even his name till he asked. They looked at each other for a moment, and then the young man closed his eyes and turned his face to the wall. They both looked at each other, exchanged their expressions. Okay, he whispered, his mouth with a bitter line. Outside the door, Hannah was waiting for Sado. He saw at once that she was in trouble. He noticed that Hannah was in trouble because she was waiting for Dr. Sedo. She wanted to tell something. Sedo, Yumi tells me the servants feel they cannot stay if we hide this man here anymore. What she wanted to tell Dr. Sedo, why she was in tension. She wanted to tell Dr. Sedo that Yumi Yumi tells me the servants feel they cannot stay, that they would not stay with them if they made this man stay in their home. She said, she tells me that they are saying that you and I were so long in America that we have forgotten to think of our own country first. That they were even saying this thing also, that both of us had been in America for a long time, so we had forgotten about our own country. That means we don't have any love and patriotic feeling for our own country. That's why we are becoming very sympathetic towards this man. They think we like Americans. They here refers to the servants. कि servants क्या सोचते हैं? We like the Americans. We don't have any patriotic feeling for our own country. That's why we are looking after him. But they are not ready to stay here if we looked after them. It is not true, Sado said harshly. Americans are our enemies. But I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help it. Underline this point. This is a point which is again and again making him, tricking him that as a doctor, he could not leave the patient if he can help him, if he can save him. They say it is not true. What the servants are saying, it is not true. Americans are our enemies. We still consider them. But I have been trained not to let a man die if I can help him. कि किसी भी आदमी को मैं मरने नहीं दे सकता अगर मैं उसकी help कर सकता हूँ. This is the training. This is my profession demands from me. The servants cannot understand that, she said anxiously. Hena understood the matter, what Dr. Sado was trying to tell, and no, he agreed. He also agreed that the servants are not so educated and they are not humanitarian ground thinking they have, that they agree with this. They both, Hannah and Dr. Sado, agreed on the point. Neither seemed able to say more, and somehow the household dragged on. The servants grew more watchful. Their courtesy was as careful as ever, but their eyes were cold upon the pair to whom they were hired. Servants were still there, but neither seemed able to say more. Somehow the household dragged on. कि घर का काम जो था जैसे तैसे चलता रहा. It kept on going on. The servants grew more watchful. They were very much careful now, and they were looking after the activities of Dr. Sedo and Hannah. Their courtesy was as careful as ever. They were polite and courteous as they were, because they all were the old servants, very old servants in their house, working for a long time. But their eyes were cold upon the pair to whom they were hired. But they were not having that look as they were having earlier. They were just looking coldly towards this pair. That means Dr. Sado and Hannah, whom they were hired, means for whom they were working, who had hired them. It is clear what our master ought to do, the old gardener said one morning. Now, see the statements of these servants, what they were saying about these two persons, Dr. Sado and Hannah, and their work, what they were saying. One morning, the gardener said, it is clear with our master ought to do. This is what our master is doing. Master here, Dr. Sado, what he is doing, he must be clear about that. He had worked with flowers all his life and had been a specialist too in moss. Now we are told about the gardener that he was very expert gardener. He had worked all his life with the flowers and had been a specialist to in the moss, you understand, the green plant with which he packed the wound when he was in the sea. For Sado's father, he had made one of the finest moss gardens in the Japan, and the garden which they were having, it was the finest garden in Japan which he had made for Sado's father, because he was fond of all these things, sweeping the bright green carpet constantly so that not a leaf or a pine needle marred the velvet of its surface. And he was always making green carpet constantly so that not a leaf or a pine needle marred the velvet of its surface कि surface जो है उसको खराब ना करे. वो he was very much careful every time. My old master's son, note down, who is considered as old master's son. Old master, Dr. Sado's father, and son means Dr. Sado, knows very well what he ought to do, and they understand this thing that Dr. Sado knew everything. He should know what he should do. He now said, pinching a bud from a bush as he spoke. That shows his anger, that he is showing his anger on the plants. He was pinching a bud from a bush, कि bush में से एक bud को तोड़ रहा है, काट रहा है, और अपना गुस्सा दिखा रहा है कि मालिक को पता होना चाहिए कि इसको क्या करना है. When the man was so near death, why did he not let him bleed? He was of the opinion that if the man was near death, why he was trying to save him. Earlier also we have read his opinion in the beginning when he was told about the coming of this prisoner of war, about this American prisoner. He at that time also mentioned the same thing कि उसको बुलेट लगी, उसके बाद वो पानी में समुंदर में गिर गया और रॉक्स के साथ टकराता हुआ आ रहा है. So it means God does not want him to live alive. God does not want him to survive. Why Dr. Sado is trying to save him? In the beginning also we got the same idea. Now again this line conveys the same idea, that when the man was so near death, why did he not let him bleed? Why he was not allowed to bleed and die if he was near death? Why Dr. Sado was trying to save him? That young master is so proud of his skill. See, in the taunting way, what he told about Dr. Sado, he says he is very proud of his skill to save life, that he saves any life, कि वो किसी की भी लाइफ बचा सकता है. The cook said contemptuously. This is the view of the cook, contemptuously in a very hatred, jealousful manner, a hatred manner. कि नफरत के साथ वो क्या कहता है कि इसको अपनी स्किल के ऊपर बहुत प्राउड है. That's why he wanted to save all person's life. She slit a fowl's neck skillfully and held the fluttering bird and let its blood flow into the roots of a wisteria vine. Blood is the best of fertilizer, and the old gardener would not let her waste a drop of it. See their anger and the feeling of enmity they have. What is the condition or the activity of the cook is shown, that what she did, she was cooking and she split a fowl's neck, fowl a bird, उसकी neck को काटती है in a very skillful manner, and held the fluttering bird and let its blood flow into the roots of the wisteria vine. एक वाइन लगी हुई है, बेल लगी हुई है उनके गार्डन के बीच में, जिसमें कि उसके ब्लड को गिरने देती है, बिकॉज ही न्यू द ब्लड इज द बेस्ट ऑफ फर्टिलाइजर. क्या कहती है कि ब्लड इज द बेस्ट ऑफ फर्टिलाइजर. फर्टिलाइजर जब हम खाद डालते हैं प्लांट्स के बीच में या गार्डन के बीच में तो अच्छी फसल होती है. what she feels कि उसका जो blood है that will be a best fertilizer for the plant, and the old gardener would not let her waste a drop of it. और old gardener जो है वो एक drop भी blood की waste नहीं जाने देगा. That means their sincerity. They had been working for such a long time in that house, and they do not want to waste even a drop of the blood. Here shows their sincerity कि वो एक ड्रॉप भी अपनी सिंसेरिटी की जो है वो खत्म नहीं होने देना चाहते. दे आर वेरी सिंसियर एंड दे आर ऑफ द ओपिनियन दैट द पर्सन शुड नॉट बी केप्ट एट होम. It is the children of whom we must think. Yumi said sadly. See about the maid servant, the third servant's opinion. सारे सर्वेंट्स अपना अपना ओपिनियन दे रहे हैं, एंड यूमी इज ऑफ द ओपिनियन दैट दे शुड थिंक एट लीस्ट अबाउट द चिल्ड्रन. what will be their fate if their father is condemned as a traitor. कि अगर उनके फादर मीन्स डॉक्टर सेडो को एज ए ट्रेटर कंडेम्ड कर दिया जाता है, एज ए ट्रेटर उसको पकड़ लिया जाता है, बीइंग अ ट्रेटर टू द कंट्री, कि उसने अपने कंट्री के साथ धोखा किया है, तो व्हाट वुड बी द फेट ऑफ द चिल्ड्रन. बच्चों की लाइफ, बच्चों का फेट क्या होगा. They did not try to hide what they said from the ears of Hannah as she stood arranging the day's flowers in the veranda nearby, and she knew they spoke on purpose that she might hear. See, their opinion and their feelings, they all were speaking just टू टेल हिना एंड डॉक्टर सेडो। वो सारी डिस्कशन जो है वो चाहते थे कि इन लोगों को सुनाई दे, ताकि वो इसके ऊपर कुछ एक्शन लें और उस प्रिजनर को हैंड ओवर करें पुलिस को। ही शुड नॉट बी केप्ट एट होम। दे डिड नॉट वांट टू hide anything from them. They wanted that their ears should listen this from the ears of Hannah. They did not try to hide what they said from the ears of Hannah. As she stood arranging the day's flower, वो अपने काम में busy है, and standing near the veranda, she was listening to all, and she knew they spoke on purpose that she might hear. और उसको भी पता था कि वो with purpose बोल रहे हैं। On purpose means they are speaking all these with the purpose, इसी purpose से बोल रहे थे कि वो उसको सुने, that they were right. She knew too in most of her being, and she understood this thing also, that they all were right in this way. But there was another part of her which she herself could not understand. But there was another part which she herself and even Dr. Sedo could not understand. It was not sentimental liking of the prisoner. She had come to think of him as a prisoner. It was not that they were becoming sentimental, that they were treating the prisoner. She had come to think of him as a prisoner. Both of them, not even Hena, but Dr. Sedo also thought about him as prisoner, but they were treating him. They could not understand what was the feeling in their mind, what was compelling them to give him treatment. She had not liked him even yesterday when he had said in his impulsive way, anyway, let me tell you that my name is Tom. Even कहते जब वो कल गई थी उसके रूम के अंदर उसको खाना खिलाने या कुछ और काम से, तो उसने बड़े impulsive way में, that means becoming very emotional, he tried to tell his name कि उस पेशेंट ने, जो अमेरिकन प्रिजनर ऑफ वॉर जो कि बेड के ऊपर लेटा हुआ है, हैड बीन ऑपरेटेड, इवन ट्राई टू टेल हिज नेम, लेट मी टेल यू माय नेम इज टॉम। उसने क्या बताने की कोशिश करी कि उसका नाम क्या था, टॉम। अंडरलाइन दिस नेम, मे बी द शॉर्ट क्वेश्चन हियर, एमसीक्यूज पार्ट। She had only bowed her little distant bow. She just bowed her head. She saw hurt in his eyes, but she did not wish to assuage it. Indeed, he was a great trouble in this house. Though she did not like that what he wanted to tell, but she could not refuse. She just calmed down. Assuage means she did not wish to assuage it. Assuage means उसको चुप नहीं करवाना चाहती थी. She did not wish to assuage it. Indeed, he was a great trouble in the house. But somehow, whatever it was, she felt that he was the trouble in the house because all the servants were against this. They were worried about their life, they were worried about the children also, because if they were condemned as traitors, they could be arrested. And it will be difficult for the children's fate also, and it would be great problem for the servants also. They also wanted that the man should be handed over to the police. So students, if you have any doubt,